Next one, maybe the biggest game of the weekend. We got Texas at Georgia, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time on ABC. The storyline to know is really it might be do or die for Texas this week. Texas has made the college football playoff in each of the last 2 years and made it to the semifinals both times. But right now, the preseason number one team in the country has only a 7-2 record on the year and most likely must win out in order to make it even back to the 12-team field this year. That includes winning games over two top 5 opponents in Georgia and Texas A&M. A loss for Georgia certainly would not outright kill their hopes of making the playoff because it would only be their second loss this year, but it likely would kill Georgia's hopes of receiving a first-round bye in the college football playoff. And also, it might make that season finale against a Georgia Tech team that right now is probably going to be in the top 15 tonight in the playoff rankings. That might be a must-win game for Georgia if they lose this game to Texas.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think you look at this game, the playoff implications, the SEC standings implications of this as well when you consider Georgia trying to stay in it. I mean, there's a scenario where they only have the one loss to Alabama and they just don't make the SEC title game, right? But then you look at if they were to get a second loss, who's feeling really good about that? And Ole Miss, who's the other team here with one loss as well. Texas themselves, right? If they were to win this game, still only have one loss. So you're talking about still having a chance. Texas, if they run the table, not only are they going to the playoff with their 10-2 record, very good chance that they could be in that mix to get in the SEC title game because you have a tiebreaker over A&M. They haven't played Bama. It would be a whole mess of tiebreakers, but everything's still in front of them. Now, they got a couple really tough games to win, right, at Georgia, and then they go home in a couple weeks and play Texas A&M. But for both of these teams, I mean, this matchup was always circled, even in the preseason, as like the game of the year. It is for both of them in a different sense, and I think Georgia would still be okay if they lost this game. You'd have to beat Georgia Tech, but we saw what happened last year.
Yeah.
5-6 overtimes it was, however many it was.
Yeah.
But, I mean, you don't want to take that to chance, but no question, a huge game here, especially on the Texas side.
So you have the Texas offense with Arch Manning against Kirby Smart and that defense. What should you know for that side of the ball?
All right, so Texas, I think at this point, especially against this Georgia run defense, I'm just going to kind of discount them from being able to run the football. At this point, they just haven't shown us they can run the football. They're going to have to win through the air. This is the Arch Manning game, at least for this season. Can he carry them to a win? Now, the last few weeks, he's gotten hot now. You look at the way he's played the last few weeks. The Oklahoma game, he was solid despite some more humble numbers in the box score. It wasn't, outstanding in the box score, but he was still really good. The Mississippi State game, he got hot at the end. He was really good against Vanderbilt as well. Since week 7, Arch Manning has the 12th best passing grade in the country. That's a big factor. The 18th best adjusted completion rate. The accuracy has looked better for everybody who was panicking about his accuracy early in the season. That has looked better. Only one turnover-worthy play in the last 4 weeks. Okay, that's really good. You're not worried about his ball security right now. But the entire offense, okay, has gotten a bit more conservative. You see that number there, 148th among qualified quarterbacks in average depth of target in the last 4 games. So you're going a lot more with the screen game. Steve Sarkisian calling about 27% screens right now. They're making yards after catch. The Vanderbilt game is a great example of how Texas is running this offense right now. They're basically just replacing the run game with short passes, RPOs, and screens. So I think that is going to be what they're going to stress out Georgia with, is trying to make tackles in the open field. Now, if Manning needs to drop back, he should have a lot of clean pockets to work with. Georgia's pass rush has been basically non-existent all season. It's a matter of figuring out where Kirby Smart is going to dial up blitzes from and which way he's going to rotate all his coverages. But Manning really has to be the star of the show at this point for Texas to win the game, because I just don't think at this point, against basically every SEC defense they played, they just have not shown they can line up and run the football. This one's on him. If he wins it, we're going to hear a lot of apologies, I think, from a lot of the Arch Manning critics who jumped on his back way too soon. If he loses it, then honestly, maybe he'll have played poorly, but I also think then this team just wasn't ready to play this defense with their offensive line issues, with the run game issues. If Arch Manning can find a way to carry him, boy, it's gonna do something there in the mind of a lot of people's opinions about him.
Absolutely. So I'm looking at Georgia's offense, and I'm looking at the offensive line for Georgia against Texas' elite pass rush. Gunnar Stockton has been awesome this year in his first year as Georgia's starting quarterback. He's 4th in the country with an 81% adjusted completion rate this year. and he's especially good when kept clean, posting an 89.9 passing grade when kept clean. That is 22nd among all quarterbacks in the country. And he's been afforded plenty of clean pockets this year because right now, Georgia as a team is 16th in pass blocking grade, and they're 22nd in pressure rate allowed this year at about 26% this year. However, that front five for Georgia will be tested more than ever before this week because Texas is 4th in the nation with an 88.2 pass rush grade, and they're 10th in the country with 31 sacks this year. And the star of that unit is edge rusher Colin Simmons. The sophomore entered this year as my number 1 edge defender in college football after a terrific true freshman campaign, and he's been basically just as good as a true sophomore. A 90.5 pass rush grade this year is 8th among all edge rushers in the Power 4. Considering Gunnar Stockton has only a 55.5 PFF grade when pressured, this battle up front could ultimately determine who wins and loses this massive, massive game.
And you're still talking about a Texas team that has one of the best secondaries in the country, right? I mean, this is the entire defense. I mean, you're looking at a team that it's just very hard to score on. I mean, at the end of the day, Texas defense, despite Arch Manning and Steve Sarkisian and everything else going on, it's Pete Kwiatkowski in this defense that makes it go, right? You've got Colin Simmons, like you mentioned. You've got Anthony Hill at the linebacker level, Malik Muhammad on those guys in the secondary, just an outstanding unit. So I think Stockton, look, he's going to be put to the test. He's been awesome lately. The last 4 games, he has been one of the best quarterbacks in the country, especially in that stretch. So I think it's going to come down to which quarterback can find 3 or 4 big explosive plays. So, these are 2 defenses that don't make a lot of mental errors. Can you find them? Can you find those guys that make those mistakes in those big moments? And can you execute with those throws downfield? Because that's been something with Stockton. As the year has gone on, he's attacked downfield just a little bit more each week. When he's hit those throws, Georgia's offense has been really, really good.
Absolutely. So ultimately, Dalton, will Texas continue their playoff hopes and get a massive win over Georgia, or will the Bulldogs deliver potentially a fatal blow to the Longhorns?
I do think we're going to get a very hard-fought, close-to-the-vest defensive battle. I think this is going to be a slow-paced game where you've got maybe a lot of 3-and-outs early. You've got 2 defenses that are really the heart and soul of these teams. I've got it Georgia 20-13. I'm going with a low-scoring one.
Okay.
I don't think you're going to see a ton of explosives, but I think the difference in this game, both teams need their quarterback to play well to win, obviously, but the fact that I trust Georgia's run game, Nate Frazier and Chauncey Bowens in that run game a little bit more, even to just keep the line moving, right? Just get my 4 or 5 yards that I need. I don't think you're going to get a ton of explosive runs because you've talked about this before. Texas run defense is outstanding too.
Yeah.
Can they just get enough? I think Georgia can do that. Texas in the run game, I'm still worried about it. It's not like they ran over Vanderbilt physically. They beat them out in space, right? Out with their speed at wide receiver and everything like that. So I think Georgia in this game can be a little more two-dimensional when they need to be. I think for Texas to win this game, Arch Manning would have to be the best player on the field on either side. Don't know that he's ready to do that yet with this supporting cast. I'm taking Georgia in a low-scoring one.
Yeah, I have taken Georgia as well in a very, very close game. I have it 24-23. Georgia coming out on top. It could be an overtime game, I think, between Georgia and Texas, but it could be a defensive battle. Should be a defensive battle in this one. I think they'll pull out a close win at home, though. I think, like you said, Dalton, I think Georgia's offense will be a little more two-dimensional than Texas will in this one. And I think that Georgia will effectively end Texas's hopes of making it to a 3rd straight college football playoff. So both have Georgia winning in tight defensive ball games.